Fuck you.
That's how you do it. Hello, people. Beautiful ladies and animals who are tuning in for this. This is a stream highlights video, so it's also like kind of bullying. I don't endorse that whatsoever. This is me going over a video of somebody who made a video about Gears of War, specifically Gears of War 1, who's trying to claim that they're remaking Gears 1 and that Gears EDA might possibly be some excuse for Microsoft to reboot Marcus and Dom in a way that they get replaced by like a woke female protagonist. Off rip, it's stupid. It also comes from a channel with like less than 30 subscribers, and the video itself had less than 30 views. But somehow, somebody, one of the autists on my Discord, found it, shared it with me, and I figured why the hell not? I had nothing else to do on stream. So, I did put on a goofy hat and stuff to kind of lessen the blow. Obviously, I do not endorse anyone going over to like this person's channel and like leaving comments or doing any of that stupid bullshit. Don't do it. It makes you a fucking loser. More of a loser than I am. But I had a good time with it, and I think it's a good example of, like, if you are trying to grift, I make fun of people like Andy Pants and Synthetic Man who have, like, gotten popular grifting, or at least, like, popular with losers, for having, like, some semblance of quality. Like, those videos don't have any quality behind them either, but, like, there's something. There's a little bit in this video where I'm criticizing him for, you know, not knowing how to use a video editor. So if you want that kind of insight, that's in there. Or if you just want to see me kind of rip into this random nobody who made a video about the symbology of Gears and breaking down why Gears was so influential with such heightened commentary as... Did you know Marcus Phoenix's last name, Phoenix, is actually representative of his journey of redemption through the game? Fucking mind-blowing, I know. It's treated in the video as if it's some great revelation and not just subtext that almost everybody would have gotten right away. But either way, it's just a little gaff, a goof, having fun, having a good time, a good laugh. Doing stupid, silly bullshit, because why not? And I don't think that because somebody has 30 subscribers and they're just posting random bullshit to a YouTube channel means that I can't talk shit about If you're gonna say stupid stuff, prepare to have people make fun of you for it. But, that being said, once again, don't go over to the fucking channel and don't go over and say nothing. That's fucking loser behavior. I am being paid in this moment to be a loser and do loser shit for the value of your entertainment. That's not an excuse for you to be an actual loser and go comment on a video of some guy who has nothing else going on. Okay? Good? Awesome? Great. Have a good time with the video. Lame, gay video reactions. First is a video that was sent to me in the Discord. If you're seeing this in the future or in the middle of it or whatever, and you want me to watch a video, specifically if it's like one that pertains to different topics and whatnot we discuss on the channel and whatever else or whatever on streams, just send it to me and I'll check it out. It will be interesting. I watched the first like 30 seconds to a minute just to get like a vibe on it. I didn't know. You told me that this was like a very small creator. I didn't know how small you meant. This video has 30 views from a month ago, and the channel has 20 subscribers. I don't know how we came across this video, but I'm also of the opinion that you don't have to be like a super big person for your voice to mean anything. And he's talking about Gears, so if somebody's talking about Gears, I guess we gotta listen to it. Of course, this is not whatever's in the video a reason for you to go ever reach out to somebody, especially somebody who's got such a small presence on YouTube like this. Effectively, everything going on in this video is, what do you call it? Pointless. This has no reach. 30 people saw that. That's a high school classroom worth of people saw that. I guess we're just going to go through this and kind of see what general people think of Gears. And if it gets too unbearable, we're just going to move on to Ice's video. I'm happy Gears of War is on PlayStation. I'm really happy Halo's coming to PlayStation. I hope other Gears games and Halo games show up on PlayStation. Yeah, it would be really cool. I think there's definitely going to be E-Day on PlayStation, and the other games, eventually, it just depends on when and if they choose to remaster them, because they've remastered Gears 1 twice now. And have not touched the other games. But, I mean, I would be fine with them just porting the 360 version over, like, upscaled how it is on the Series S and X consoles over to PlayStation. Just do that. You don't even have to make new stuff. Just port it over. We'll get into this now.
So why are Microsoft re-releasing the original Gears of War in 2025? Why aren't we seeing a sequel to Gears 5? As someone who played the original Gears of War when it was first released on the Xbox 360 and considers it to be one of the finest action games of all time, why am I skeptical about this move from Microsoft? In this video, I'll be exploring what made the original Gears of War so impactful, not only for its gameplay, sound and graphics, but what made the characters and story resonate on a deeper symbolic level. Is it just
on a deeper symbolic level? Nah, people that like resonate with people don't connect or resonate with Gears characters on a deeper level. They connect with them because they're big buff dudes and they like their personalities. It's not that deep. A lot of Gears of War has a huge Mexican audience because Dom is Latino. Like, that is it. Like, that is where that is. And him being, one of the main characters has definitely like helped give people like an identity they can cling on to, which is great. But like trying to pretend like there's like some deep like woven symbology into the mythology of the games or whatever, you gotta stretch it very far.
just another dude bro shooter about meat-headed Marines that's stuck in the past and perpetuating harmful stereotypes?
There you go. That is an accurate description of Gears. Whether or not the stereotypes are harmful, you can debate that. That's going to change from person to person. But they are stereotypes. Like, Baird is like the dickish mechanic dude. Cole is a black man who is not only a star national athlete, but also a music star. Marcus is one of your most generic action hero protagonists ever. And then Dom, this is not necessarily a stereotype, but it is kind of funny that, like, the main thing that Dom's character is associated with is family. As, like, a man who is, like, clearly... I mean, he's not Mexican, because Mexico doesn't exist in Gears, but, like, as a Mexican dude, the fact that, like, his main thing in the story is family, it's a little funny. The fact that, like, I think there's a very non-zero chance that he's just based on Dominic Toretto from Fast and the Furious. I don't know when the first of those movies came out. I assume it's after 2001. Okay. So there were 3 movies out before Gears came out. So I think there's a very clear non-zero chance that Dominic was just based on Dominic Toretto. Let's keep going.
Was it necessary for Microsoft and the Coalition to resurrect the original game to draw us in again, given that their plan was to replace Marcus Phoenix with a strong female lead, a trope that has ironically become a stereotype?
Hold on, what? Where the fuck did that come from? What was he saying?
Perpetuating harmful stereotypes. Why was it necessary for Microsoft and the Coalition to resurrect the original game to draw us in again, given that their plan was to replace Marcus Phoenix with...
I'm getting like thrown off by the syntax here. I feel like he's saying like 3 different sentences that need punctuation put into them. Like he's saying, why do they need to do a new game? Is it to draw us in again? Just to replace Marcus? But there's none of that there. He's just reading off a script. That's going to make this very hard. We're going to be like reacting to a Shadows video here. But hold on, let's go. Given their plan was to replace Marcus Phoenix
with a strong female lead, a trope that has ironically become a stereotype in its own right in modern games. Will they finally be giving gamers what they want? Or will this be another bait and...
A stereotype? I mean, like, you could say that, like, a female lead is a stereotype, but, like, that means nothing. Like, a male lead is a stereotype in all of gaming. How many, like, are we going to say that, like, every game from the 360 area is stereotyped because all of them have a strong male lead? Cliche? Yeah, it's more cliche than stereotype. That's, like, not how you use that word. But, like, I can't think of that many examples of, like, a series with, like, a male lead getting replaced with a female lead. Like, you could say, like, The Witcher and Last of Us are the ones that come up to mind, but those are, like, not characters that come out of nowhere in the same way that Kate kind of did. Because Kate was a new character that got added on versus, like, Ciri and Ellie were characters that were around from the beginning. And, like, basically what the story revolved around to begin with. So I don't know what stereotype he's going to be talking about, or how Ide is a bait and like. How do you do that? That like Ide comes out, and they bait and switch Dom and Marcus for like a female. But you think like halfway through Ide they're going to be like, oh yeah, by the way, this is Susie McTits. She's going to be taking over as protagonist now. It's like, what are you talking about? He's going to contradict himself. Oh, fun. This is fun. But I want this to be an example. Just because nobody has watched your video doesn't mean you can't be a fucking moron. We'll keep going.
Twitch, bringing back the original cast only to deconstruct and replace them all over again. Stick around to find out why.
Why would they do that? Outside of like this gang stalker paranoia about women.
I went back and listened to a talk.
Man, that editing is amazing. Oh, man. He needs to, like, turn the volume up on the clips. I love seeing videos from people that, like, haven't used a video editor. But they're, they're, like, doing things that they know should be in a video where he's like, okay, chapter change. We're going to hard cut to a clip of the game with the title up and put a little subtitle for like what the chapter is, but it's like in basic Arial font. No transitions, no anything else. The audio is at like -10 dB. Batman in the comics has been deconstructed and restructured like 1,000 times. Yeah, that's also not necessarily a bad thing. I guess Gears has never had like a reboot style thing, which I kind of hope Ide isn't. I hope Ide is not a soft reboot type thing. I'm to an extent. Like if there are changes and stuff they make that they're like trying to pass off, it would be dependent on the change, and I can't even think of anything off the top of my head. Like I'm not obtuse to change, but I would rather it be acting more as a prequel than a soft reboot. They're afraid of something not to worry about, basically.
Talk given by Cliff Bleszinski, the lead game designer from 2007 at the Game Developers Conference in preparation for this review. He strikes me as an intuitive person. He said that when he starts making a game, he doesn't really know what he's doing. He has a couple of ideas and then just goes with it, feeling things out. I don't always think that fun is one of those things that you can plan in excruciating detail in a design document, he said. I think it's one of those things that you feel through, unquote. I wonder whether his deeply intuitive approach to making Gears of War is what made it such a powerful work of interactive entertainment, because it was so unconstrained by our modern sensibilities and political...
Okay, hold on. Everything was unconstrained by modern sensibilities. Because there were no sensibilities in game design at the time. This is going to be a... Are we blaming Gears of War on woke? I've talked about Gears of War a lot, by the way. It does not hold up. The original definitely doesn't hold up, and you can feel a lot of that in a Reloaded. We'll see it when we get into the multiplayer and we start playing matches and stuff. Okay, I was about to fucking... No! Damn it! I didn't know he was right behind me! It sucked. I've been playing a lot of Gears 4 multiplayer, like last week when we played Gears 4 on stream. And then I've like been going back and forth between like Reloaded. Just to like help myself. I was like, do I really hate this, or am I just like not used to Gears? And Gears 4 is my favorite game, so I went back and I played that, and then I jumped back into Reloaded. I hate it so much. It is so dog water.
For correctness. It just sounds like they really wanted to make an awesome game, and that creative freedom and focus on fun enabled them to tap into deep archetypal...
Okay, yeah. I agree. focusing on fun over like a super corporatized thing like Call of Duty Black Ops 7 is better. That's how you make a good game. That's how Larian did it. That's how Sandfall did it. It has nothing to do with political correctness. Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the most politically correct games of all fucking time. Every single character in that is hypersexual and trying to fuck you, no matter who or what you are, even if you're a fucking bear. That has nothing to do with being PC or woke. That is just not how that works.
Simple patterns of storytelling, allowing them to design a game without fear. Listening to a younger Cliff Bleszinski made for an interesting contrast with an older Cliff, who recognized that his 2020 game, Lawbreakers, failed commercially because
2020? That was not a 2020 game. The game came out in 2017. This post is from 2020, true. But that's not what this is.
It was, quote, too woke, unquote. He claimed that
Lawbreakers was not bad. It did not fail because it was woke. It failed because it was a bad hero shooter that was competing with Overwatch at the height of its game. And it, like, restricted itself to certain platforms. It's just a bad game. Games fail all the fucking time. They don't fail exclusively because of woke. That's just not true. Again, see Baldur's Gate or like any of like the big, massive games. I'm sure they're woke in some form or another. All of these are. But that's not why Lawbreakers failed. It was just a bad game. Oh, man.
implementing progressive policies such as having gender-neutral bathrooms and not sexualizing female characters alienated parts of the gaming audience and contributed to the game's poor sales. But in 2007, the younger Cliff was unrestrained by a desire to challenge traditional ideas, enabling him and his team to draw upon universal themes and archetypes that are better.
Please stop saying 2007. I mean, that's like when that interview was from, but like they made this in 2005, 2004. I feel like there needs to be a look into your... I'm in criticism support mode of like telling you, Neon Edge Gaming, when you write a script, do your research, make sure that everything lines up, because it's one of the things I focus on, because it's like I beat myself up whenever I don't catch it or if I fuck something up like that. Do your research and make sure that everything you're claiming, and even if it's like a small thing that's just like being nitpicked, make it right. Because if the small things are right, the big things are right. If you can't even get the small things right, like the timeline, I'm going to be less inclined to be good faith about your big things. And that should just be like writing 101, or like retrospective writing 101, I guess.
Better able to connect with people and elicit a sense of fun and excitement, rather than a game that reimagines or subverts these symbols and just ends up provoking a different kind of reaction in people. He was not trying to advocate for a political cause. He just...
Hold on. Lawbreakers, like, subverting... How does it subvert fun? You don't... The like implication here is that like gender neutral bathrooms are the opposite of designing a game that is fun, which just doesn't make any sense. Where's the correlation?
wanted to make an awesome video game, which is precisely what he did. Now, the original Gears of War...
Also, like, constraints or whatever, that's also another bad example, because in Lawbreakers he was even less constrained. It was his own studio. He didn't even have someone like a producer like Rod who had to like approve everything. He was just able to do what he wanted. It's like, it wasn't like he was pressured, or he like would have been pressured to make it have gender neutral bathrooms or whatever the fuck. If you're playing like a hero shooter and your biggest concern is what the icons on the bathroom that are in a corner of the map that you don't interact with look like, first of all, you're a fucking moron. And if you think that's the reason the game failed, let me tell you, buddy, that's not... that has nothing to do with whether or not the game is a success. Your game just fucking sucks. If the sign on a bathroom that players don't even interact with because it's a video game and you don't take shits, if that sign is enough to tank your game, buddy, let me hold your hand. Because it does not fucking matter.
started off as a game called Unreal Warfare. It was going to be a large-scale, vehicular-based operation. The developers were fans of games like Tribes and Team Fortress, featuring character classes such as medics and engineers. So they thought maybe they should do something with vehicles and territory control. But in the process of brainstorming their game, one of the original pitches they came up with was an idea that they titled Resident Kill Switch. He was a big fan of the Resident Evil games and loved the horror elements and pacing of them. Then he saw the game Kill Switch, which Cliffy considered to have the best implementation of a cover system he had ever seen. Flying around, taking cover and blind firing around corners. At that point, what would become Gears of War had no cover system. It was an FPS with large-scale vehicular combat. However, they then realized that they could enhance the game's pacing by refining the cover dynamic, making it easier to use, more intuitive.
This is just a bad breakdown of the
your
development of
squad mates
Gears.
Could become panicked and afraid. However, they ultimately gave up on this approach as they didn't want the game to spiral into a negative feedback loop, which ultimately wouldn't be enjoyable for the player. Their priority was making a fun game. But as in...
Cool. I'm still failing to see how gender-neutral bathrooms function into how a game is fun or not.
Intuitive as he sounds in the talk, he says that iteration without control is chaos and anarchy. You need to have guidelines. You need to have rules for what your game is about. Now, one of the rules that I picked out, which I found quite interesting and will help us transition into talking about the finished game, is about the bad guys in the game. They said, right, we do not want to have any aliens from space. The villains in this game were going to be from the underground of the planet. And this, of course, would make for all kinds of interesting scenarios of seeing holes burst out of the earth and creatures pouring out of it. So let's talk about the world that they created for this game.
I'm excited for this because just off rip of like talking about Cliffy B as if he made Gears of War 1 in 2007, I'm ready for the Gears of War lore. Gears of War lore airballs to start dropping. He talks so damn slow. By the time he's done, the snail gets around the world. He is incredibly fucking slow. He is like textbook reading off a script, which, like, you know, you go back to the earliest videos I have on the channel, I sound like that too. But like, look up a class. He sounds old too, which kind of hurts.
Gears of War is set on the fictional planet of Serra, once a lush and verdant world, now desolate and ravaged by war. The story begins with the emergence of the Locust Horde, a nightmarish race that rises from beneath the Earth's surface to wage war against humanity. The Locust
It's not Earth's surface, because you just said the planet Serra, which means it's not Earth, and Earth doesn't exist. I'm nitpicking.
Brutal assault reduces Serra to ruins, and what remains of human civilization takes refuge in underground cities known as Jacinos. Now
Whoa, what the fuck did you just say? What's left of humanity takes refuge in underground cities known as Jacinos? What the fuck is a Jacino? What the fuck is a Jacino, dude? What the fuck? The locust come from the underground. Did you not just talk about that? This is what I was talking about research, where it's like, if you can't tell me that you understand the basic plot of the Gears of War games that you're supposedly such a big fan of, and you're going to tell me that the humans come from an underground city called Jacino? They say Jacinto immediately in Gears of War 2. If you've played Gears of War 2, you know what Jacinto is, and you know it's not an underground fucking city. What the fuck, dude? How do you fuck that up so hard? What the fuck? Did I know the planet's name is Ares? Yeah, I did know that. It's also one of the names of the... What is it? I think one of the names of the moons is like that too, where it's like a god or some idea that's just spelt Rizea, I believe. It's just Aesir backwards, which is like the name of like the gods from Norse mythology. He's gonna go mad with how he views the setting and some choice. God damn it! Is there any like TOS words in here? Like, what do you mean by choice words? Do you mean like Synthetic Man style words, or do you mean like slurs? Because if there's slurs in this video, then we're not watching it. But yeah, I think it's Rizea is Aesir. Fascist wording. Okay. Backwards. Because everything has to be related to war. I don't think the Aesir are typically war related, but that's like the Norse gods, like Odin and Thor, the more like popular ones, I guess you would say. Frigg, Heimdall, those types.
Graphics in Gears of War, both in the original version and in this remastered 2025 version, are an absolute masterclass in visual storytelling.
Okay, no. The Ultimate Edition visuals are nice. The 06 version, not so nice. It's nice by 06 standards, but like it doesn't really hold up at all. And then visual storytelling, maybe, very basically. Like, it doesn't do a bad job at visual storytelling, but I wouldn't call it a masterclass.
The game's setting draws significant inspiration from European architecture, particularly from London, with the original title's design influenced by a trip Cliff Bleszinski.
Isn't that Greco-Roman architecture? Isn't this Gothic? Like, Gothic Greco-Roman architecture? Isn't that where it comes from? I don't think this comes from London. I think London and the United States based all their stuff off of Greco-Roman architecture.
He took to the British capital, which included views of St. Paul's Cathedral and the city's architecture.
That cathedral looks nothing like the building you're showing me.
By a blend of styles, incorporating aspects of Regency Britain, which contributes to the game's distinctive look. Now, going back to Cliff's 2007 talk at GDC, it's interesting to hear about how they developed the baddies for this game. The Locusts were originally called Geist, but after doing a trademark search, they found that Nintendo had already developed a game called Geist, Geist being the German word for ghost. So they brainstormed and came up with the name The Worms, because they were creatures from the underground of the planet. But they weren't happy with that, and went back to the drawing board until they eventually...
I'm glad they changed it. Can you imagine if it was The Worms? Cliff just calls it European. I mean, I guess. It's only like European in the fact that Europeans stole it from ancient Rome.
Actually came up with the idea that they ended up with, which was the name Locusts.
I beg, please do a second draft of the script. They eventually came to the idea that they ended up with.
Which he says in his talk is a very unsettling name and implies a plague. So I just found it really interesting, the whole creative process and these legal obstacles that they faced, and how as a consequence of that, the story had to evolve and the characters had to change and adapt. And I think what they ended up with was a far more powerful name and concept for the villains. The Locusts are creatures of the underworld. And why that's such a powerful thing is in terms of the symbolism of the underworld. We know that the ancient Greeks had a concept of the underworld known as Hades, which was the realm of the dead, or a place of suffering and torment. In Mesoamerican mythology, it's associated with a similar concept. Psychologically, the underworld is associated with the unconscious mind, or the depths of the psyche, from which our fears and shadows emerge. And this is the place where the Locusts emerge from. Darkness is now bursting free to challenge and bring chaos to civilization. And I really like the name they went with as well, the Locusts. In many ancient myths, locusts are seen as...
This is like crazy... Not crazy. This is like symbology 101. This is the most basic shit in Gears of War, is full of the most basic shit while treating it as if it's like revolutionary. It is like regular symbol. Like, it is Luke Skywalker wearing white, gray, and black with white on the inside level symbolism from the original trilogy. Like, it's not even that crazy. It was hard to take them seriously if they just called the worms. It's one thing, it's an enemy unit, but the whole faction would be goddamn stupid. Yeah. If they were like, oh, worm grenadier. No.
Symbol of fertility. But in the most influential narrative of Western civilization, the biblical story, they are famously associated with one of the 10 plagues in Egypt in the book of Exodus. And they've often been understood by Christian theologians as a sign of judgment and a punishment for sin. In fact, their own insatiable appetite and destructive behavior perfectly symbolize the nature of sin.
I mean, I think this does graft onto Gears, but again, this is like creative writing 101. This is not like some big, deep revelation that nobody has noticed before.
Just as locusts devour everything, so does sin consume all that is good. And finally, the serpentine appearance of the locusts in the game taps into the mythologies of chaos monsters, such as Tiamat from Mesopotamia, who emerges from the depths to bring chaos to the world. The physical degradation of the world of Serra, also symbolizes the moral decay of a once great civilization, capable of building beautiful, transcendent, and holy architecture.
How is it? Hold on. How does it describe to moral decay? I'm like having to like scrape the ridges of my brain every time he says something. If it was like caused by something that was like moral, I could see what you mean by that. But it's like a literal war. Like you're doing a lot to like stretch the symbology here to make it fit perfectly. Yeah.
Architecture, which has enabled the Locust Horde to emerge from the underworld, much like a decadent society reaching its inevitable end. There's a bit early on in the game where you see this perfectly encapsulated.
He just called the Locust uncultured. Oh, man. If the game made that argument of some kind, like, sure, I could almost see it being that. But it doesn't. It's not like we're talking about, like, Chaos Space Marines. They're just lizard people that are angry. That is literally the depth of the characterization the Locust get. They're lizard people and they want to kill humans because they're trapped underground and the things underground are trying to kill him. He's still going. By the time we're done talking, we're going to have Space Marine 25. I'm not pausing it as much as I normally did. This is only a 17-minute video. Normally, we'd sit here and watch it for 3 hours. We're trying to get through it.
In a scene where a statue is destroyed as the
Oh my god.
Locusts emerge from underground, desecrating this holy architecture. And this theme of civilizational destruction, with cathedrals and temples everywhere in ruins, evokes a kind of battle between...
This is like he's definitely like one of the people who sits there, thinks forever, comes to a conclusion, and like because they've never listened to someone else talk and they haven't spent a lot of time developing ideas and thinking about ideas further or looking for examples of that idea, he's coming to very simple conclusions and then like reading it off as if it's like the most revelatory thing to ever exist in the history of the universe. This statue fell down, and it's a example of them desecrating this once beautiful city. It's like, brother, like you're doing like I know he would hate these kind of like the people who do like the slam poetry about racism, where they like say like, oh, cops shoot black people when they shouldn't. It's like, yes, I agree with you, but you're saying it in the most like annoying bullshit way possible that you're making me angry. And he's doing like the opposite of that, where he's like, Locust broke a statue and it's destroying the city. And it's like, yeah, no, yeah, that's what that is. But you're saying it as if it's some profound thing when it really isn't.
Between tradition and the invasion of the other. But just as society falls into complete disarray, so too does the age of chaos become the heroic age, as certain men are inspired to rise above the decadence and become heroes, fighting to defend their homeland, and in one particular case, seeking atonement for his past mistakes. Enter Marcus Phoenix.
Okay, we're really stretching the things that we're talking about now.
We take control of him 14 years after the first emergence of the Locust, and he's been in prison for the past 4 years of that conflict.
Okay, he got that right.
He was a famous war hero, now turned criminal, convicted and imprisoned for leading a failed, unauthorized mission to rescue his father, Adam. Another interesting bit of symbolism. Even his family name, Phoenix, is the name...
Guys. He goes through a period of redemption, and his last name... You'll never fucking believe this. His last name is Phoenix. Do you see what I mean? Like, it's the most... Who the fuck has played Gears of War and didn't go, oh yeah, Phoenix, yeah, I get it. It's like having John Warfighter and going, you know what? He sure does fight in wars. Like, why is that? Why are we treating it like it's some profound thing? Like, yes, he goes through a redemption story. His last name is Phoenix. I'm just finding this very funny.
Name of a mythical bird reborn from the ashes.
Is that an AI video?
Symbol for
it's
hope
gross.
And renewal for the world of Sarah among its ruined cathedrals and lost faith. Marcus's physical scars and emotional stoicism also harken back to Marcus Aurelius, the well-known philosopher and emperor who led Rome during devastating war.
I think I have that. Hold on. Emperor's Handbook. Let's fact check him in real time. We have it right here. Marcus Aurelian, the Emperor's Handbook. Let me see my camera. I can't see if I'm getting that right. Marcus Aurelian. The flood and Halo are based on biblical floods levels of revelation. Yeah, like the flood is a thing that kills all life. And it's like, yeah, it's about that deep. It's not like some profound thing. Marcus Aurelius, I guess like that is, it's getting somewhere along the lines.
Wars with the barbarians. His writings emphasized resilience, duty, and acceptance of hardship as a moral imperative. Marcus Phoenix, too, will step up to lead the battle to save Serra from the otherness.
No, he explicitly doesn't step up. Like, he's kind of like, he has to because he's the protagonist, but he's very clearly not leading anything. At Gears of War 3, when the cog is falling apart, his girlfriend is leading everything. He just fucking does the work. He's just happy to be there and shoot shit. He's basically an orc, really, if you think about it.
Of the Locust Horde. Although Marcus is an anti-hero, he respects authority and hierarchy. He addresses his lieutenant, Kim, as Sir. He is respectful and understands the chain of command, and eventually accepts his role as the leader. When he's summoned at the beginning of the game, he's dwelling in darkness, in a prison, considered a traitor. This is where he begins his redemption arc, as he embarks on his trial as a warrior. But Marcus Phoenix is no mere protagonist. He is the embodiment of the stoic warrior archetype. Figure whose strength lies not just in his muscles, but in his moral resolve.
What moral resolve does Marcus demonstrate in all of Gears 1? Does he have a single hard choice to make in whatsoever throughout the entire game? What arc does he go through? He just goes, kills Locust, and then he's like redeemed in the eyes of Hoffman specifically at the end of it. It's like, what moral redemption? Okay, I'm happy to see what the explanation of this is.
And the supporting characters like Dom, Baird, and Cole are also archetypes made flesh. Dom represents loyalty and camaraderie, while Baird embodies the archetype of the reluctant hero. Their interaction...
I guess. Again, we're like back to creative writing 101 stuff. I don't want to just keep repeating it, but that's basically what this video is. It's like, did you know? Baird doesn't want to be here. It's like, yeah, that's pretty present in the character.
Actions are not just banter. They are a symbolic dialogue about duty, sacrifice, and brotherhood. Their relationship exemplifies how these bonds can sustain individuals and societies, even during the darkest time. Let's talk about...
Can you give us an example of how their dialogue is symbolic and saying that it's not banter? Because most of it is just banter or talking about the plot of the game. There's not a whole lot of dialogue outside of that.
About the combat. Now, one of Cliff Bleszinski's other rules during development was that the game was to be a slower paced game. Not a run and gun game, but a stop and pop game. The game would feature a crosshair, which would be activated by pulling down the left trigger on the controller, and would give you a limited peripheral vision. The player could run in the game, but when he did, the camera would wobble, and he couldn't shoot while running, which allowed for a design trade-off and enabled the player to make a choice between the two. And this helped create a distinctly unique feel to the combat, coupled with a variety of battle situations that take the player through narrow encounters in corridors, all the way to larger settings in derelict town squares, as wave after wave of locusts emerge from beneath, in some places spawning in from one location.
He's not even getting the fish in a barrel achievement. Dude, that's like the first thing you do when you get to this fountain. You're supposed to get fish in a barrel. How he explains chainsawing, very weird. Wait, what? He's a weird take on chainsawing.
Situations where they pour in from all around you. In those situations, you really feel like you are engaging in a war, and the cover system means that you often literally have your back against the wall, and it constantly feels brutally fun. The combat system is visceral, punishing, and deeply satisfying.
This is the most engaging combat for a game I think I've ever seen. He's just shooting at them as they're coming up out of the ground, Playing on casual difficulty, by the way, by how quickly they die, but what exhilarating gameplay.
Dance of survival that taps into the player's primal instincts. The chainsaw in particular is of course horrific, but there's something ritualistic about it, like a bloody sacrifice. Sound design elevates the experience of the combat into the realm of the sublime. The roar of the lancer's chainsaw, the crunch of sand under boots, and the bone-rattling bass of explosions resonate and ground the player in a world where every action carries weight. The combat is not subverted or sanitized. It's rendered with raw, unflinching honesty.
I love the audio that's like the same audio level as it was when it's in the background. He really is just sort of like explaining. He's like reading like a ChatGPT style paragraph that like describes the game with a lot of like flowy poetic language, but doesn't actually have any substance to like behind it. He acts like characters' personalities are hidden. No, they're not. They straight up tell you who they are. You have to chill. Yeah. There is no subtlety. Literally, you have space cowboy, space Hawaiian, you have space football star, you have space family man. They are all entirely one note. You can consider most characters one note. Most don't even have an arc. The only character who has an arc throughout the games is Dom, maybe, and then the other characters don't really have an arc whatsoever. I don't even think their characters change. His politics aren't subtle. Nothing about his games are subtle. The symbolism is not. His last name is Phoenix. But we've got a video like this where the guy is acting as if it's some like divine revelation. It's like, oh my god, I've unlocked the secrets to the deep and hard to penetrate writing. It's like, no, dude. No, it's not that complex. Stop acting like it is. Watch your video back after you're done editing it and look at it and be like, this seems like it's a little quiet, or this transition seems like it's a little hard, or my text feels like it's Arial font and it looks like I barely even tried, or I really don't know what I'm doing. It should tell you one of two things. A, it's a nice way to go through and make sure you've edited everything to your satisfaction, and B, if you feel like you can't resolve those things, you've got the internet. Plenty of people will tell you how to make good videos. There is no excuse in 2025 to be making bad videos outside of laziness. And I know. I do it plenty of times. He doesn't realize at the end of the day, Gears of War is just a series you play as big buff dudes fighting big buff dudes. Like it's like Warhammer. I mean, that's it's not as comparable because I think Warhammer does, especially with all of the literary stuff it has behind it, does have a lot more going on in the world design and whatnot. But your discussion on there are more doors in this world has more stuff. Warhammer does have more stuff going on. Like that's what I made my whole like hour-long video about fascism and Warhammer about. Gears doesn't have necessarily a whole lot going on, but also it's not very subtle, and pretending like it is doing the game a disservice. Warhammer at least has it. I mean, it also doesn't have any subtlety, but depending on the story or like the Black Library book, it can have some interesting things to say. Maybe if you're talking about a game like Space Marine 2 or Bolt Gun, obviously that's a much different case, but Warhammer does at least have a lot more going on than Gears does. Return of the King, archetype or stereotype? I need you to define the word archetype and or stereotype for me. So I know what you're thinking.
18 years later, in 2025, it's...
18... Wait, hold on. I'm so confused. 18 years later in 2025. It's been 19 years since Gears. Are we still going off the idea that Gears 1 came out in 2007? Is that where we're getting messed up here?
It's evident that the AAA games industry has shifted its priorities significantly. Developers are now focusing on creating more inclusive experiences that boost representation of marginalized communities and actively work to avoid stereotypes. This shift invites us to examine the modern gaming landscape and how it contrasts with this earlier approach to storytelling and character design. Now, 2019 was the last time Microsoft released a new Gears of War game in the form of Gears
Tactics was 2020, but yeah, let's go.
Gears 5. It explores themes of trauma and identity with a more introspective main character. Gears 5's developers consciously attempt to reimagine the story through a lens of inclusivity and modern...
What are you... Why are just random sentences... You just highlighted the word planned there. You can't see it because my camera's in the way. It is just... Here, let me move this shit. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. This... They just highlighted the word planned. It's not even saying any... Gears 5 was planned. What the fuck are you even trying to do with these highlights? What is like being said here? Kate Diaz is the first lead female character in Gears of War. Known for its hypermasculine characters, intended for a strong female lead to replace Marcus. Rod Ferguson compared the story to Mad Max, supporting character, even though he ostensibly the eponymous lead character of the movie. Max is really there to support Furiosa's journey. Yeah, Mad Max does a great job at like having like Furiosa is like technically the main character, but Mad Max is like who we are led through. I can kind of see that with Gears 4, and then Gears 5 completely takes it. Change on a cultural level. Decided early on in the production of Gears 5 they wanted to have a female lead. The whole game story is written around Kate. Strong, well-rounded. According to the franchise narrative lead, well-rounded female character is someone who is authentic and has a full range of emotions. You're just highlighting every time they say decided. This is like crazy nitpicking of a Wikipedia article.
values, but it risks diluting the archetypal power that made the original so resonant. One video game website had this to say about the Gears of War re-release. Gears of War Reloaded is a relic of the past. Now let's get the obvious out of the way.
Who the fuck gives a shit about Polygon? I'll be honest.
Gears of War is a hell of a good time. Its campaign is tight, clocking in at around 6 hours or so, and its 5 acts shepherd Marcus Phoenix and his squad mates from level to level, set piece to set piece. The Locusts are coming, and they ain't stopping. Perhaps most impressive in terms of Gears' gameplay is its cover system. It offers a range of fluid movement for Phoenix, and isn't clunky. Unlike some other games of its time, the gunplay is top-notch, with a solid variety of weapons available to Phoenix. Though I mainly stuck with the Lancer assault rifle, using the chainsaw bayonet on a Locust is as entertaining in 2025 as it was in 2006. So it's clear that the journalist enjoyed his time with the game. He goes on to say this: however, upon revisiting Gears of War, what stands out most is just how thin its story and characters are.
True. Use Warhammer as an example. It's easy comparison. I mean, yeah, if you simplify it to like the bare bones, they are, at least like the Space Marines or whatever, obviously it's like very similar. They tried to sue Gears at one point.
Beyond his of an era soul patch, there's not much to Marcus Phoenix. He starts by getting broken out of prison, and his trial is alluded to in a glance at your phone and you'll miss it moment, but his circumstances before the opening of Gears of War never matter much. He's out and now tasked with killing Locust, and dagnabbit, that's just what he's going to do. Phoenix and the rest of his squad are your stereotypical block-headed Marines with biceps larger than NFL footballs. They're all macho men, with a token woman, Anya, making an early appearance before being relegated to only appearing via audio, doling out instructions. Like Phoenix, there's not a lot to any of them beyond their gruff military personalities.
True. But guys, his last name is Phoenix, which symbolizes his arc of redemption. Who could have saw that coming? The fucking masterclass of storytelling.
Later he says, and sure, players can rightfully want to shut their brains off and shoot some alien monsters. Shooting aliens is great. It's why I wanted to play Gears again. However, remasters offer an excellent opportunity to revisit the past through a new lens and reflect.
He's like I can't. I'm like trying to like read the article as he's like speaking it aloud and follow along, but he's like skipping words and like paraphrasing as he's reading. It keeps throwing me off.
This piece of entertainment against the backdrop of its time. Later Gears of War installments provided more depth to the human versus Locust conflict at the heart of the series and made strides to be more inclusive, with its 5th entry starring its first female protagonist. Gears 5 stands in sharp contrast to the original Gears, which was wafer thin. And this journalist is not alone in being critical.
I mean, they're not they're saying that it stands in contrast, not necessarily that it's better. Is that what you're getting out of that? I guess there's maybe an implication that because it's more developed, that it's better. I didn't hear about them try to sue the guys who made Gears of War. It's like an old thing. This is not like currently happening. I don't even know necessarily. It might have just been an urban legend that I always heard in Gears of War circles. But like supposedly Games Workshop tried to sue Microsoft or whatever for having a chainsaw in their weapon. And they were told, no, you don't have the right over chainsaws. But apparently that was a thing at one point. Yeah, the article is not saying that Gears 5 is a better game or it's better that it has a female protagonist. It literally just says these two games are wildly different compared to like the original that came out in 2006. It says nothing about the quality or like those attributes affecting the quality in that way.
Of Marcus Phoenix for being a, quote, block-headed Marine with a soul patch and not much else. But let's dissect this through the lens of myth. Joseph Campbell said heroes aren't about detailed backstories. They're archetypes, vessels for universal truths. Marcus isn't Shakespeare. He's Hercules, Beowulf, or Gilgamesh.
Okay, but the thing you're missing there is that like Hercules, Beowulf, or Gilgamesh have stories, meanings, themes, and arcs behind them. You're also comparing a character written for a video game in 2006 to stories that literally invented storytelling. Like, of course, those stories are not super complex. They're like the first ones. It's like that shit where it's like, dude, I would be a philosopher in Greece too if nobody else had thought, a circle is different from a square before, right? Like, it's that same level of bullshit, but we live in the modern age where we have like a greater level of literacy when it comes to our media and the stories that we can tell. And because we, as a society, for the most part, it's been getting worse, have been able to like feed off each other and like build these greater stories, we can then engage with more complex stories than even that, and get even more and more dissective of these ideas, and really kind of expand media to a way it had never been before. If you're fine with like your character being super simple, there's nothing wrong with that. Or if you want a character who's super simple, look at Doom Guy, right? Doom Guy is like one of these super simple, like Beowulf, Hercules type characters. There's nothing wrong with that, but that also doesn't mean that he's not a blockhead. Like, that's what Marcus is. Like, if your thing is that like you don't think he needs to be super complex, that's fine. That doesn't negate the originality of, or like the original claim of him being like a stupid blockhead that doesn't have an arc. Because that's true. If your bare qualification for a character being good is that they fit an archetype, buddy, you didn't even make it. Like, this is not even a like take a creative writing 101 class. This is like you didn't even sign up. You didn't even look at the pamphlet for creative writing 101.
Warrior stripped to his essence, fighting not just for survival, but for order itself. Notice how little we learn about him? That's intentional. His blankness...
That's not. It's intentional because the lore of Gears had not been set up yet. They didn't know what a lambent was in 2006. That's not intentional. The story is so obviously retconned about halfway through anyways, because the whole resonator thing just doesn't work. And then you move on to an entirely different plot line that has to do with Marcus and his dad and shit that was not set up whatsoever beforehand.
Lets us project humanity's collective unconscious onto him. Modern games like Gears 5 pad their narratives with character quirks and politically correct-driven protagonists, but that can dilute the...
Can you give me an example of these character quirks and politically correct protagonists? What does that mean? We have a politically correct protagonist. Oh, what? So what, they just don't say slurs? What do you mean by politically correct? This might surprise you, but like Expedition 33, that game I just nominated for Game of the Year, or voted to be Game of the Year, whatever, has a bunch of politically correct protagonists. Not only is that game fun, but that narrative is literally otherworldly. But it's politically correct? What does that even fucking mean? Give me an example. Support your argument with like evidence.
Myth. By contrast, remastered Gears clings to tradition. Though its cast is drawn from multicultural ethnic backgrounds, they are ultimately just a band of archetypal warriors bound by duty. A far cry from today's
so they're very
obsession
simple. Oh god. All of these characters fit archetypes. Your complaint is that you want characters that are not just archetypes, because every character is an archetype of some kind. That's what the term archetype means. But that they are trying to do deeper things. Like, sure, Veilguard is a bad game, Shadows is a bad game, because they're more focused on, like, corporate appeasement than actually being pieces of art. Ghosts of Yotei should not belong on here. That is a great game. Ghost of Yotei might be better than anything in Gears. Personally, I mean, I like Gears more, obviously, but Gears War 1 was made today, they would call it woke. They would. It has a black dude and a Mexican dude shoved into the main squad. Like, why do they need to be here? What? They would definitely call it woke if it came out today. Cliff himself said that if Gears of War came out today, they would call it woke. And he said that in like 2019 or 2020-ish. So obviously, yeah, they would.
Representation over resonance. Now, the critics might call them stereotypical, but Jungian archetypes
are stereotypical by definition. That's why it's an archetype. Or like the stereotype is derived from the archetype. The basic white dude who's angry and doesn't say a lot of words is like an archetype in video games, and it's been used so much that it has become a stereotype. Obviously, it is stereotypical. That's just how things work. You are just in denial of what reality is.
Are stereotypes by design. They're universal.
There you go.
The loyal comrade, Cole, the gruff everyman.
I like how Dom is like beloved from the audience because he's like put like on a level playing field. But he like reduces Dom to the loyal comrade. He's not equal with Marcus. He's not Marcus's brother in arms or his best friend. He's the loyal comrade. He's over there.
Icons of brotherhood, sacrifice, and resilience.
Can you give me an example of them representing brotherhood or sacrifice or resilience? Not even that I think it's wrong, but like, you can't just like say words and expect me to agree with them because you're saying words that sound like they're correct.
Anya's audio-only role isn't an oversight. It keeps her symbolic. She becomes like a voice from above, like Athena guiding Odysseus. Archetypes are finely tuned patterns that are not arbitrarily defined. They're universally recognizable, carrying profound symbolic weight with them. Deconstructing them can dilute or even negate their thematic power, leading to stories that struggle to convey.
No, I mean it can if you're a bad writer, sure. Then you look at like something like God of War, the newer games that do deconstruct the myth of Kratos, and he becomes a way better character by the end of it. And the story itself is great by the end.
Meaningful messages. Archetypes tap into our collective unconscious, evoking strong emotional responses. Deconstructing them can result in stories that struggle to evoke similar emotions, leading to less resonant experiences. Symbolic depth cannot be rewritten without consequence. The remastered version preserves the timeless patterns, the hero's journey, the warrior's sacrifice, and the confrontation with shadow. It is a quiet act of faith in tradition, resisting the modern urge to deconstruct what has endured for millennia. So, Marcus Phoenix re-emerges at a time when the video game industry, like the world of Serra, has lost its way. A timely reminder of the power...
Lost its way? They got attacked by monsters. What do you mean, lost their way? It's not like they just, like, became super progressive or something, and that's what led to the downfall of their civilization.
Of tradition, archetypes, and symbols, how they resonate with us, and how...
Not that those things aren't important, but, like... God, this was like put together in such like a shitty way. Not to like, oh, you're using AI in thumbnails. Oh, you know what? Never mind. I don't care. Fuck that guy. Oh man, what a shallow, bullshit analysis of a game that has been talked to fucking death. Do you know the last name Phoenix symbolizes his redemption, like a phoenix from from Greek myth? Whoa! It literally is like as subtle as a sledgehammer, but he's acting as if this is like some big, profound thing that nobody has ever talked about in the history of gaming before. He's saying he'd rather have one-dimensional personalities over three-dimensional characters. Yeah, basically. Not even like 2D characters. He wants flat archetypes with like barely a personality and no arc whatsoever. I used to be those types of people calling anything I didn't like woke until I grew the fuck up. Criticizing something without just calling it woke is better. I mean, yeah. Criticizing something without just like labeling it some like bullshit thing is always going to be better because it's hopefully rooted in like some actual criticisms and not just going woman bad, because that's always bullshit. I'm gonna pull up a video, probably the dispatch video, real quick for you people to watch. I need to go use the restroom, so I'm gonna pull this up to keep everyone entertained until I return. Where is this? Two-dimensional isn't bad by itself. No, being like even a one-dimensional character is not bad, but saying that like I don't want a character that's complex. I just want stupid dumb blockhead man to do stupid dumb shoot locust thing. Okay, I'll be right back.
Jackson 5 by myself. 2, 3, lift off. Just when you think you got me figured out. Oh, I jumped early, my bad.